All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Workbench, your resource-rich weekly podcast and newsletter for local service entrepreneurs. Continuing our franchise segment and focus here. Super stoked today to be joined by Brian Garrison. He's the COO and president of Buzz Franchise Brands, also working directly with one of the newer brands in the portfolio, Wonderly Lights, to help get that brand rocking and rolling. Brian has deep expertise across the franchising space and local service space. Super excited to dive into his career, what he's doing at a franchise level, how they're building Wonderly Lights, and all of the great learnings from that. Brian, appreciate you coming on today. How's your week been?
Been busy so far. Thanks so much for having me, Brian. Look forward to chatting about Buzz and about Wonderly and all things franchising. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So, Brian, before we start totally talking shop and getting into all things business, I know you spent, correct me if I'm wrong, about 22 years in the Navy. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah.
22 years for sure. Yeah.
First of all, thank you for your service, and would love to hear about, your personal background. I think that's just a super unique background. How was it transitioning from a military life into business, and then just also a more general background on yourself? I think it would be great to kick things off.
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, thanks for the kind words. And I often tell people, I appreciate the thoughtfulness and thanking me for my service, but I was, very fortunate and really blessed to do it for as long as I did. The people I got to work with, some of the stuff I got to do. So I consider myself blessed, and I want to thank people for letting me do it as long as I did. But so I spent 22 years basically starting right out of high school. Went to the Naval Academy, then joined or got commissioned as an ensign in the U.S. Navy. So was in the flying business. Was a naval flight officer flying the A-6 and F-18 aircraft. So the bulk of my 22 years, I was in squadrons of various types, usually deployed on carriers. And then, of course, did a fair amount. As you get older, you tend to get stuck in some staff jobs. So I had to do some desk work over those 22 years for sure. But that experience, I think there's just a lot that the veteran offers the business world. I think that's pretty well documented, but it can be a tough transition. You really do kind of have to repackage how you think and all the things that you have the opportunity to do in the military to make it more translatable and meaningful in the private sector. So for me, when I retired, I went into the management consulting space and spent about 2.5 years doing that. And it was just a great kind of proving ground or great way to transition and take a lot of my experiences plus some of the analytic work that I had to learn and apply it to business problems. And so largely in the management consulting world, it was big business, Fortune 100 company type applications. But when I had the chance to jump into the entrepreneurial side of things, that's where I really got to kind of blend what I learned in the consulting world with all the leadership and management and problem solving skills that you pick up in the military. And it was just a great fit for me. And so I've been doing the entrepreneurial thing with Buzz for over 10 years now. It's been a great second career, if you will, working largely in the home services space. We do have one youth enrichment brand, but we started with a company called Mosquito Joe that was founded back in 2012. And we ended up selling that in 2018 to Neighborly. And then we have 3 other home service brands right now in our portfolio: Pool Scouts, which is residential pool cleaning; Home Clean Heroes, which is residential home cleaning; and then our newest brand, Wonderly Lights, you mentioned, which is in the outdoor premium lighting space.
So you joined Buzz in 2015. What attracted you to the franchising and home services space coming out of McKinsey? Outside looking in, seems like a relatively corporate kind of consulting environment. What attracted you specifically to this space?
Yeah, I think it was the opportunity to come in and really drive all aspects of the business. And so, in the consulting space, depending on what you're doing, your specific project, it can be very narrowly focused. And, I had been at a point in my naval career where I was kind of involved at all levels of an organization and all facets of running an organization. And so the opportunity to come in and try to build something and scale something over time, while kind of impacting, whether it was hiring, building policy, building this office that we're in, recruiting franchise owners and the customer sales side, all the way down to how we use technology and metrics. It was just like you get to do everything and you're working on different problems every day because you're pretty single-minded focus on growing the business. and it was exciting, and it was a good opportunity to challenge myself that way. And I think most of us who get into entrepreneurship also feel like there's a good upside, or perhaps more upside if you do it right, and that's certainly a motivating factor as well.
So I see you have the Wonderly Light shirt on. It seems like you're spending a decent amount of your time on that brand specifically. It sounds like it's a new brand for the franchise system. Can you tell us a little bit about Wonderly and what you're working on there with that relatively new brand?
Yeah, so Wonderly is our newest brand. It's about
Okay.
3 years old.
Okay.
It's focused in the outdoor lighting space, as I mentioned earlier, and the attractiveness of that industry is just a lot of momentum behind landscape and architectural lighting and permanent LED lighting, which is very popular on businesses, and even more and more for the homeowner, where you can change the lights or the sequencing of lights for different holidays and different events, whether it's a football weekend or Valentine's Day or the 4th of July. So a lot of momentum in that vertical. But really for us, we started, interestingly enough, it was kind of a niche opportunity. Um, Pool Scouts and before that Mosquito Joe can be seasonal businesses, particularly in the northern half of the country. But we're always looking at ways to complement that business model, not only for our franchise owners, but for business owners in all sorts of seasonal businesses. And we had looked at the holiday lights kind of vertical as far back as 2016, and ultimately decided we had way too much going on with Mosquito Joe and Pool Scouts. We kind of put it on ice. And then coming out of COVID, we said, all right, it's time to start another brand. What do we want to get into? And that was the opportunity. We said, let's go into the niche holiday light business. And then after about 2 years of doing that, about 15 months ago, we expanded into this true premium outdoor lighting model, which encompasses all three verticals. And it's just a lot of fun, a lot of excitement for us.
So, from a lighting business perspective, it sounds like the core services are you guys set up a variety. Can you tell us a little bit more about the details? Is it just holiday lights? Is it, what is the kind of the core service there for people interested in a newer business model? Yeah, can you walk us through the basics of like the services provided, kind of what the general economics look like around the lighting business?
For sure. So we do landscape and architectural lighting. So that's kind of a classic, probably been around. If you ask the long timers in the industry, they say it was really kind of designed or developed back in the late 50s in California. But that's uplighting on your house, on kind of the shrubbery or trees, can be downlighting, pathway lighting, um, and the components of a landscape and architectural are basically the same thing. One of them you're focused on the structure, the other on the landscaping. Pretty simple there, but that's the core business. That's the year-round business. There's all sorts of interest in that. It expands your outdoor living space if you're a homeowner, or if you have a restaurant with an outdoor sitting area. It can add some security and safety to your home and your property. It helps increase home value, makes your home look just amazing in the evening and at night. So for those reasons, landscape and architectural is kind of the full year business vertical. Permanent LED lighting, like I mentioned, that's actually permanently mounting LED strips. It's a mechanical exercise. These are metal strips with lights that you can control through an app or through your phone or an iPad. And as I said, you can vary the lighting. It can go red, white, and blue. It can be all white for the holidays. So more and more people and businesses are interested in that because it gives you year-round flexibility. That's a one-time sale. Landscape lighting tends to be a one-time sale. There's maintenance service contracts associated with that. And then certainly we're getting ready to head into the sprint part of our year, which is the residential and commercial holiday lights. So that's your classic, white typically lights, but it could be red and green or white and red, to kind of celebrate the holidays, whether it's Hanukkah or Christmas or even some of the other holidays that are gaining in popularity. So that's the third of the three verticals, and that business in and of itself is just uh, super in demand. That people are less and less inclined to do-it-yourself model. As the population ages, people are less interested in getting up on their roof. People like the idea of the holiday lights, that we store the lights, that we manage the lights for them, that we do service calls. So it is a full service business model.
From a franchisee perspective, when it comes to, let's say, Wonderly Lights or the other brands in the portfolio, what are you guys looking for when someone's expressing interest in potentially being the local franchisee for Wonderly Lights, or maybe the swim school, Home Clean Heroes, Pool Scouts? Stepping back, curious about how you think about evaluating and bringing franchisees into the system. Just starting there, and you can dive into the more details. But yeah, what's your process for finding the best franchisees?
Absolutely. I mean, we certainly have the marketing component to recruiting new franchise owners, and that's we have websites for each of the brands. We advertise in various industry through various industry medium. We are in the consultant networks, which are very important to the franchise industry. So we're covering kind of all those bases. As far as what we're looking for, um, they come from all walks of life. So we have the corporate refugees, as people like to call them. People want to get out of corporate America. We have transitioning professionals, whether they're doctors, lawyers, nurses, military. And then you have some serial entrepreneurs that are just looking to add to their business portfolio. So we run them through a fairly intensive, we call it a discovery or education process. And it's a two-way street of evaluation. We're sharing the information that we can based on our franchise disclosure document and our marketing materials, culminates with them coming in for basically a full day session with our team. So either at the buzz level, either Kevin, our CEO, or myself, we meet with every candidate. Then the brand presidents meet with the candidate and members of the ops, marketing, and technical teams. So we're really kind of running them through the ringer, and we're trying to understand, like, are they getting into it for the right reasons? What's their motivation?
Yeah.
What skills are they bringing? Certainly, people come out of sales and marketing backgrounds. They understand the importance of being, engaged in the community and doubling down on your marketing. But we need to understand, like, are you intending to run this business yourself, or are you going to hire a manager? If you're going to hire a manager, do you have the funds to get to break even? Because that's going to, slow down your growth if you're paying somebody else. Do you have the technical skills, or you're going to outsource the technical skills? So it's a pretty comprehensive and thorough process. We try to simplify this. Say, are they PhDs? And that's a very simple acronym. Are they passionate? Are they hungry? And are they driven? And we're doing our best to evaluate that. And do we think they'd be a good fit with our franchise system?
Yeah. From a brand perspective, you guys cover a pretty broad, like, a swim school is very different from a home cleaning business, from a pool cleaning business, from a lighting business. There's some very traditional home service categories that are not here, right? I'm not seeing a pest control. I'm not seeing a HVAC. I'm not seeing electrical. I'm not seeing, EV car charger installers, which I feel like is getting more popular. What is the philosophy around Buzz Brands and the industries you decide to or not to operate in?
For sure. So, we are by tradition a home service focused brand. Um, and that was driven by Mosquito Joe, which was our pest control company until we sold it.
Right, right.
Um, I think we're looking for a couple of factors, and there's different decisions or criteria that went into each of our business models. But typically, we want a business that we can train somebody who doesn't have deep expertise in the concept. So when you talk HVAC or plumbing or electrician, there's trade licenses, there's trade experiences. Those are very viable markets. It's just not a market we're choosing to play in. So that's an intentional decision. You know, the mosquito control, the outdoor lighting, the pools cleaning, I would say those are relatively fragmented and in some cases almost emerging markets. I wouldn't say that about mosquito control in 2025, but in 2012, 2013, it was definitely an emerging market. And so we felt like there was a couple of competitors, so we knew it was a valid market. The economics looked very favorable. The capital investment was very low. And that's the kind of space we want to play in. So we continue to evaluate, niche or emerging home service opportunities. And perhaps we will add more over time. Right now, we like the three we have. And we're really focused on scaling those across the country. And then I guess just as a quick aside, the youth enrichment, the learn to swim business was just a very it was a well-timed acquisition for us. It didn't necessarily fit the portfolio, but it really checked the box on some other dimensions in terms of brand awareness, the emerging aspect of the market when we bought it 8 years ago, um, and the low capital investment, because our model is not a build a pool model. It's a find the water that's in the community and set up the arrangement with the hotel or fitness center. So very one off. arrangement, but it had some good overlap with kind of our core philosophy about how to set up a good franchise business.
So I'm curious, as your professional perspective, there's a company called Skimmer that raised like $75 million, and their model is that they're both building the SaaS and like acquiring pool cleaning companies, and so like it's sort of this virtuous flywheel where yes, they're creating the SaaS, but they're also operating the pool cleaning companies, so that the learnings from running the pool cleaning companies inform the SaaS, and the pool cleaning companies use the SaaS, and they're just it's very unique, right? It's not something you've never really seen before. I'm curious, as someone who oversees a brand that owns a pool cleaning company, if you have a perspective on that type of model of trying to basically build like a holding co of like independent pool cleaning companies under one brand while building technology. Just you seem like a good person to maybe offer a thought on that sort of business model.
Yeah, I mean, I think Skimmer, I'm not deeply familiar with it, but I know what they're doing. I think it's an interesting concept. It's certainly, we've seen uh, in the home cleaning industry, we see a couple similar models there. It might not be that they're acquiring independent cleaners, but there's a kind of a loose network all falling under a single technology. So, um, we made the decision early on, I think, that we are not a technology company. We look for good technology partners. That does a couple things for us. It manages our capital investment in software, meaning we don't have to invest and then continue to invest. Once you build the software, you're committed to maintain it, right? You got to
Yeah.
modernize it. You got to not fix, but upgrade the back end or the the code, the source code that it's built on. That's probably about as deep as I can go into software without really.
I've run a SaaS company, so you're preaching to the choir. Yeah.
Yeah. So we decided early on we didn't want to do that. We were more interested in finding, best in class or close enough to best in class
Yeah.
partners that we could work with, and then be agile if we need to shift providers. So that's our approach. I think what Skimmer's doing um, is certainly worth watching. We keep an eye on them. We've looked at their software. I haven't personally, but our team has, and just kind of evaluating where it's going. So, I think more power to them. It's a big industry. That it's a very fragmented industry.
For
So
sure.
I think their model can work, and I know our model works for sure as far as Pool Scouts is concerned.
Yeah, growing up on Long Island where there's, the Hamptons, Montauk. I didn't grow up there, but that stuff's an hour, 2 hours away. I definitely knew some guys who were blue collar but ran successful pool cleaning companies and did really well for themselves. Seems like a good business model.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I don't. I believe this is still true. I think New York has the most pools in the country, which is very
Yeah.
surprising at a state level.
I can see that. Yeah, everyone. Yeah, a lot of pools out there. I never had one, but all my friends did. So I had a.
That's the best way.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need to be rich. You just gotta have rich friends, right? Um,
It's kind of like a boat. You
yeah,
don't want a
exactly.
hoverboard. You want friends with boats.
Right, right, right. Okay, cool. And then in terms of like growth, like how are you guys thinking about new vertical expansion, new industries versus getting new franchisees in the existing brands? Like what's the growth focus for y'all in the back half of 2025? Is it just, hey, let's get our current franchisees to grow. Let's open up new brands. We need more franchisees on brand A or brand B. I'm curious what your all's focus is from a buzz level in terms of the growth of the overall conglomerate.
Yeah, for sure. At the buzz level, there's growth in three dimensions. One is bringing on new concepts or acquiring new brands. That may be in our future. It's not a focus in 2025. I think our primary focus is on helping our existing franchisees across all brands scale. And I think historically we've done very well with that focus. We have a shared services team here at Buzz. Really spans, I would say, three verticals: marketing, finance and analytics, and training and onboarding. And we often say our marketing team is very similar to like a mini agency. We have a creative design team, we have a digital marketing team, we have a direct mail marketing team. They support all the brands. So we are very focused in driving brand awareness and direct customer recruitment for all of our existing franchise owners. That's certainly for much of the consumer industry that's been under pressure, I think, the last 18 to 24 months. A lot of people, I think, have struggled to grow. In some cases, they've even lost growth. Our growth has been pretty steady. Definitely, we saw a little bit of a flattening of the growth trajectory, I think, over the last 15 months or so. And so we're really focused on getting that curve bent back upwards and growing. And then the third pillar, of course, is recruiting new franchise owners. So we have a dedicated sales team. we're constantly working to better present what our offerings are. And I think that's been pretty solid, and we'll continue to focus on adding more new franchisees across all four brands.
Love it. Brian, anything we didn't get to here that you wanted to cover today?
No, I think this has been great. I really appreciate the
Yeah.
time to share the story of Buzz and Wonderly Lights, and really appreciate the opportunity to
Yeah.
join you here on the pod.
Yeah, Brian, for folks that want to connect with you personally, check out maybe franchise opportunities within the Buzz family, maybe at Wonderly. Where can folks connect with you and the businesses that you manage?
Yeah, absolutely. So all of our brands have a dedicated website. So whether it's BritishSwimSchool.com, WonderlyLights.com, etc. I can personally be reached at my email, bgarrison@buzzfranchisebrands.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn for sure.
All right, Brian, thanks so much for the time.
Absolutely. Loved it. Thanks so much, Brian.
Yes, sir.